All right, guys, welcome back after our short break. Let us quickly continue with what is in store for us. Right, so I'm saying here question number 2. Amy baked chocolate brownies for market day. Study the graph and the income and expenses below and answer the question. Right, so looking at the graph, there's the title, always important. Title of the graph indicates that Amy's total income and total expenses. Then on our x-axis, we have the number of brownies sold. And then also on our y-axis here, we have the amount in rand. Okay, then question 2.1. It says identify Amy's fixed cost. I hope you can see the angle I'm coming from this time around. In the previous example, I gave you the context and I wanted you to draw a graph. This time around, I'm giving you a graph and you must be able to interpret that graph. Right, so question 2.1, identify Amy's fixed cost. Right, so looking at this graph already, I can see here, this will be my income, and it's always important, a good idea to go and label the graph if it's not labeled. And this will be my expenses, right? Simply because I can see with this graph, it starts at between 100 and 200. That's more or less 150 rand, right? So meaning that can't be his income graph, okay, or her income graph. So the question, identify Amy's fixed cost. So Amy's fixed cost will be 150 rand. Can we see? So it's here where this graph is starting. Okay, so let's look at question number 2. Point 2 says label, right, the break-even point, and this time we should call it BE. So looking at the graph, this is our break-even point here. And what should I label that? I should label it as BE. All right, and remember, as simple as it may seem, this will all count 2 mark. In Maths Lit, we don't have any sum that counts 1 mark. Okay, so let's look at the third question, 2.3. It says, how many brownies must Amy sell in order to break even? So looking at the graph, we can see the break-even point is here at 100 brownies. Right, so meaning at this point in time, her income and expenses are exactly the same. So we want to know how many brownies must Amy sell in order to break even. So that means that will be 100 brownies. Okay, right, let's look at another question. At 2.4, it says label the income graph and the expense graph. Right, so as I did previously, said if there's no sales, there will be no income at this point in time. And that's always what I want you to look at, right? So meaning that will be our income graph. Clear? Then, if that's the income graph, this then immediately we'll know becomes the expenses graph. All right, guys, I hope that is all fine to you. Moving on now to the next question. It says, how many brownies must she sell in order to start to make a profit? Yes. Okay, remember here is our break-even point. What is the break-even point again? Is where our expenses and our income is exactly the same. So if the break-even point is 100, in order for her to start making a profit, she will need to sell at least 101 brownies. Okay, so after that point now, the income will become more than the expenses. As you can see on the graph itself, after this point, what happens to your income graph? It's higher, meaning it's more. Looking at in terms of your income, can you see there, or your amount in rand? That's higher, meaning it's more than your expenses graph. All right, let's look at another question. It says now, determine Amy's profit or loss when she sells 40 brownies. Okay, so now, if you look at this, it should be 40 brownies. And I also indicated that you may use the formula, profit equals income minus expenses. Okay, so now, let's start. We're looking at 40 brownies. So here's the number of brownies sold. Then 40 will be around about here. Do we agree? Right? And I want you to work with me. So if 40 is around here, then my income here will be more or less 200 rand. Right? So I'm going to substitute that value. So remember, first step is your formula. Step number 2 is to substitute into the formula. So we established that the income equals then 200 rand. Then let's look at our expenses. Right? Expense, remember it's still 40 of these brownies that she's selling. So now 40 is round about here. So if I go up, I'll say it's round about there, so I'm going to estimate, right? Let's say that's round about 290 rand. Okay? So therefore, if I do this calculation, 200 minus 290, so you can see this will give us minus 90 rand, which is a negative answer. We agree on that. So in this case, Amy will definitely then be making a loss. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Looking at this, I went to my graph, and remember you can use the context as well. Start with the formula, substitute into the formula, and then get your same answer. Income, I read for 40, and I went here, and I said 40 is around here, went all the way up. Then I went to the left, and I said that's around about 200 rand. Then I looked at my expenses. Expenses still 40 brownies that we are looking at. And then I went all the way up, so it intersected around about there, just below 300, right? I went to the left, and I estimated that amount to be around about 290 rand. Therefore, I took the 200 rand minus the 290. I got to an answer of negative 90, of minus 90, and I concluded that Amy is making a loss. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have enjoyed the lesson. Please work every day. Take care and stay safe. See you again.